Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney.
Good evening, everyone. We are live and welcome to the second season of the Bookish Hour. I am Sarah Burr.
And I am JC Kenney, and we are so thrilled to be back here at the Bookish Hour, Season 2, Episode 1. Woohoo!
JC, when we first did our live stream for March Mystery Madness back in March, did you have
Mm-hmm.
any idea what we were getting ourselves into?
No, no. I thought that we might have, if we were lucky, 3 people hang out with us for like maybe 20 minutes and then go on to, find something else to do. But yeah, so we are here, season 2, and, we couldn't do it without our lovely viewers and folks who are hanging out. So I'm going to go into the shout outs right now because I
Let's
want
do
to
it.
say hello and thank you all to Mark, Renee, Carol, Claudia, and Sebastian. Great to have you back. Thanks, folks.
Thank you for joining us this evening. And we've got, I think, a special, I think it'll be like a greatest hits kind of show for those of you who joined us during season 1. You'll be familiar with our format where we do some Q&A. We have a little bit of a treat this evening regarding our giveaway format. We're not going to be having a magic word. We're going to have a little activity for everybody. So if you aren't logged into your YouTube or Google account, make sure that you log in so that you can use the chat feature. And of course, if you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to pop those in the chat and we will do our very best to get to them throughout the wonderful hour that we have planned.
Yeah, and speaking of wonderful hour, want to let everybody know that this, as episode 1 of season 2, is a little bit of a callback to our very first episode because we don't have a special guest. But our special guest, to a certain degree, is Sarah, because today marks the release of book 2 of the Glenmyre Whim series, Too Much to Candle. I'm so excited. I'm spitting all over the place. I tell you what, Sarah, I've had the joy of reading both of your books in this series. I love Hazel to death. I think Poppy is the total bomb. So congratulations on having Too Much to Candle out in the world.
Thank you. It's I this will be, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure this is like either the 15th or 16th release that I've had at this point in time. However, it never gets any less terrifying and fulfilling at the same time. It's like such a relief to have the story out in the world because I've been keeping it to myself for so long now that I just can't wait to share it with everybody. And I'm super excited to be able to talk about what Hazel and the gang get up to this evening.
Yeah, yeah. So, why don't you do that? Give us the blurb.
So, where Too Much to Candle picks up, this is actually my first foray into a holiday themed cozy. The holiday is Halloween, so it does have a spooky little twist to it. And Hazel, it's about 3 months since her first mystery outing adventure with Poppy, and Crucible's recovering from this awful tragedy where a prominent local figure was murdered. And so when someone goes missing out on Lake Glenmyre, the town is like, wait, what's going on? Our idyllic little slice of upstate New York, like things like this don't happen. So Hazel, with the gift of her whim, her little special supernatural ability that allows her to see when someone's going to die, Hazel can see that this missing person doesn't exactly have a lot of time left on this earth, but they have enough for her to be like, maybe something bad didn't really happen to them. However, things take a little bit of a frightening turn as Hazel's friend and coworker Iggy becomes the main person of interest for the police on this missing persons case. So, of course, Hazel and Poppy drop what they're doing to rush to Iggy's aid and add in some buried treasure and long lost family secrets into the mix, and it might be too much for them to handle. I love those puns.
Yes, yes, brava. Yeah, it. Like I said, I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. Perfect for an October release. With this being Halloween season. This reminds me your Glenmyre Whim books, but especially this one because it does have a little bit of Halloween tie-ins in it. It reminds me of like when. We're kids trick or treating. It's not the spooky part of it, it's the fun part of it.
Exactly, yes. Although
Yeah.
I was my favorite thing about Halloween these days is watching scary movies, but
Mhm.
you got to like separate the cozy from your horror the horror movies that I like to watch. And it was really fun to kind of dive into how Crucible would celebrate Halloween because the town itself kind of really embraces kind of the supernatural history that it may or may not have. They've got Cold Cauldron Brewing, which is the local craft brewery, Bright Moon Cafe. There are lots of like little nods to the paranormal that I had when I was building the town. So it was really fun to like hype that up for Halloween and create some events that Hazel and her friends can go to really enjoy the fun and festivity of the season.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of leads to one question that well I could spend all night asking you questions about the Glenmyre Whim books, but before I do that, I want to say that for me, my big spook thing for Halloween is I'm watching the classic horror films.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing that last year, doing it this year. So I got a real kick out of the fact that during the big this isn't a giveaway, but there's a big community event in the story where everybody gets together like on the town green and they're watching a classic horror film, and so I just thought that was fabulous. So enough of me editorializing. What I would like for you to maybe share for folks, where did can you talk a little bit about the idea of the whim with the family and kind of where you got that idea and how that came about, because I think it's different,
Mm-hmm.
which makes
I
it fun.
I so I'm glad that you said that because that was like my main goal when creating this concept of the whim is that I wanted to create something different in the paranormal cozy genre. But I wanted it to I mean, I love paranormal cozies and that's why I wanted to write one of my own. And kind of exploring the different themes and how main characters are presented. When Hazel introduced herself to me, I knew that right away she wasn't a witch. Um, she wasn't somebody that was like pursuing magic or was really hyping up her abilities that she has. In fact, like she's kind of suppressing them as much as she can because she doesn't want to have to deal with the burden that she personally has where she can see like a little clock above the heads of everybody around her saying like counting down the time that they have left before they die. And but I wanted there to be an element of the storytelling and the sleuthing where these little gifts um, could really come into play. And that's why Poppy is such an integral part of this entire series. She's really my second main character. Even though we don't get anything from her point of view, she's just such a critical part of the storytelling process because her whim that she has uh, shows an aura, the color around somebody, and it reacts based on their mood or their feelings. So she's like a human lie detector, which can come in very handy when you're questioning suspects or trying to get to the bottom of something. But it also creates these situations where as the writer, you have to really explore these avenues of how to present the story so that Poppy just doesn't like walk into a room and be like, "Oh, that's the person that killed so and so." So the idea of the whim came about in the fact that I wanted the Glenmyres to have their own, each like their individual little gift that they had, and that they could use it when they wanted to use it, or that it was something that was really just uh, a kind of not a spur of the moment type of thing, but as I was, thinking about like, well, how do you have a power that, doesn't necessarily, activate when you need it or is available all the time? And that's when this like on a whim phrase kept coming to my head.
Mm.
And, basically, eventually it all boiled down to, well, let's just call them whims because each Glenmyre has, it's a little, it's not like, they can't move mountains or levitate things or defy physics too much. Um, but they're just like um, these little abilities that they've had that have filtered down through the generations. Um, if you kind of go back, and in book two, I had a really fun time like expanding more on the family lore. And so going back to the early Glenmyres, the founders of the town, and they definitely had more power and may or may not have been witches at the time. But eventually, you know, the time eroded whatever power connection they had, and so that everybody's kind of left with these little treats. Although Hazel really does not view her whim as a gift whatsoever.
Well, and I think that's one of the interesting things about Hazel. There are many things about her that are really interesting, but the fact that she has this power that, let's be honest, I mean, she considers it a curse as much as anything. And that's a lot of weight to carry around every day. Um, Talk to us a little bit about that. Why did you give her such a I can't think of the right word. Why did you give her such a gift that is
A
a
burden.
curse as much as a blessing?
Yeah, that's I she asked me that a lot too. It's like, why did and she's always saying like, Poppy has this amazing gift that she's able to use every day with the residents of Crucible and help them through, feelings that, I having a bad day, I need a boost, what have you. Um, I wanted Hazel to be different even in her own family, um, because whims traditionally are useful gifts. Um, Hazel's mom, she could touch the cover of a book and just know everything inside of it. And so for Hazel to kind of have this like internal struggle of having to grapple with, why me? Why did I get selected to bear this burden? And because her life overall is pretty great. She has a job that she loves. She has a close group of friends, but she does have this burden that is weighing her down and really holding her back from embracing the relationships that are in her life. She's able to wear she has enchanted glasses that she's able to wear that suppress her power to see the life clock. It's called the life clock over everyone's heads. But she knows that she can't wear her glasses forever. And that little note is like an ode to my own personal struggles with glasses, where it's like, if you take them off at night, you can't see anything. And so for her, it's like, if I take these off, I can see the secrets of everybody around me. So I think for her, it's really about coming to terms with, and the journey that she is on, it's coming to terms with the fact that this is her lot in life and she has to make the best of it, because she can't change who she is. And it's something that she has to deal with and really has to explore as her relationships with the people closest to her grow deeper. And her time in Crucible, she really cements herself in the community.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to see how that evolves, because I don't want to give away too much, folks. Y'all need to read the book, but we're beginning to see a little bit of a the spark between Hazel and Ezra is beginning to kind of kindle into a little bit of a flame, which is exciting. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how Hazel and how Ezra. Hopefully, he's going to be a good man
Yeah.
or a good partner, and accepts her for who she is.
Yeah, I think that so I'm and we've talked about this before, JC, about relationships in cozy mysteries and how for me personally, I'm all about the mystery. And so having weaving these relationships, these romantic relationships into the equation because I love the friendships. Like that's that's the cherry for me in a cozy mystery. The romantic relationships, though, I think where, Hazel doesn't want to know what his time is, and she's having to deal with like, I really like this guy, but can I open up to him or open myself up to this pain of like knowing how much time we have left together, and really kind of deciding, what's worth it in life. Um, you know, live a life I'm afraid to go into the unknown, or whether or not it's worth the pain. And I think that it's probably one of the heavier storylines in any of the books that I've written, which is interesting because like I find Crucible and my time there just always so joyful, um, and writing them. And so the fact that poor Hazel has to deal with all of this and solve crimes that are happening around her, it's a lot. But luckily she has a good support system to help her through.
Yeah, she really does. And so let's kind of, Bookish Hour is supposed to be fun. So let's kind of take a little bit of a different tack. I'd like to know a little bit about Hazel makes candles.
Hmm.
And I felt that in Too Much to Candle, we get a real, I don't want to say real, but we get a deeper dive into the candle making process. The first book, Hazel's a candle maker. She talks about, you touch on it a little bit, but it sure seemed like in book two, you got really farther down into that,
Hmm.
and how she actually makes the candles and comes up with the different aromas and things like that, because it seems very real to me. So how'd you pull that off?
I so it's funny that you mention, in book one versus book two, because I felt that from a research perspective, because part of the storyline is Hazel really focusing on developing her business and really going from like a, having her shop open and making her candles kind of when she has the time. She really has a process now in place because she has the space available to do so. And it really just came, learning about the different waxes that are, becoming more prevalent in the industry. Back when I was writing You Can't Candle the Truth, like soy was the thing, and everywhere you went, it was soy, soy, soy. But over the past couple years, the industry has been shifting to even more environmentally friendly waxes like coconut. And so I wanted to show that reflection in Hazel's own kind of mastery of her hobby. So you'll find her experimenting with different types of waxes to figure out like, okay, like what is going to be, the most economical, what's going to be the best for the environment, and how can I sustain that as part of my business. And luckily she has Iggy, who is her store assistant, who kind of is overseeing kind of the customer service side of the industry, where she really gets to dive in creatively. And I think that really just stemmed from a shift in how Hazel wanted to be involved with her business. She started selling candles because she loved making them, and she kind of got bogged down in all of the managerial details of running a shop. But now that Iggy, she's like fully on board with the fact that like I'm not taking away from Iggy's writing, and he wants to be here because she's like super she's super nervous that she's like ruining his writing time, because he joins. He's like, "Hey, I'm looking for part-time work. Um, I'm writing a book, but I need to, I need some type of income at the moment." And so she's always kind of a little nervous, like, I don't want to get in the way of his creativity because, my shop is the culmination of my own like creative outlet, and wouldn't want to get in the way of somebody else's. But once Iggy reassures her, it's like I can write and sit behind a counter at the same time. I think that's kind of like the full steam ahead for her, and that's kind of why I think there's that shift in her business and how she's continuing to expand it.
Well, and I as a reader, I really appreciate the fact that you work that into the story, because I think one of the things that, as cozy mystery fans, we appreciate the escape from reality. But at the same time, I think a lot of folks, and I'm assuming here, but I think it's fair to assume that folks like to have a touch of reality in the stories. And so not every amateur sleuth is going to be independently wealthy where they can just go off and investigate crimes because they've got nothing else to do. And, especially again, in Too Much to Candle, there are a couple of times where Hazel finds herself. It's like, okay, well, I got some investigating I want to do, but I got a business to run. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say, I appreciate that, because I think, again, that helps us, shoot, our main characters, they've got bills to pay.
Yeah. And I'm glad that came through, because my instinct always is like, drop everything and let's go solve a mystery. But you're right, like there's a business to run. You have to make sure that everything's in place, and and keep not suspending reality too much. And I think and that's one of the reasons why I chose candles, because it was something that I myself was familiar enough with when it came to crafting them on my own, that I had kind of that sense of I could root it in my own experiences. And I always find that helps the authenticity of the writing. Um, I couldn't write something where the main character was a baker without having to do a lot more research than I did for, okay, here, how to run a store from, I did retail and when I was younger, so I had that foundation, and then also like the crafting component. I'm able to like carry that sense of reality from my own experiences into the picture, to hopefully engage the audience in a more realistic fashion. So I'm glad that came through.
No, absolutely. And speaking of which, one of the other things that I think is wonderful about writing series types of works is that, we get to know more about the community and the world. And one of the things you did in this book is to help, again, kind of ground the story, even though Crucible is a made up town, we think. I want to go there, but that they go visit Cornell University. Yes. in Ithaca. So that I think it was a really nice touch, because it kind of gives us, again, a sense of clearer location for where the community is. So why Ithaca? Why in particular?
Oh, so when talking about Crucible, and when I was world building and figuring out like what kind of town do I want to build, I kept thinking to the area around where I went to college. And I went to college in Elmira, New York, which is roughly 40 minutes away from Ithaca. And I was very familiar with the area of New York. So I could immerse myself in like knowing where the wineries were for the Finger Lakes region, or driving into Ithaca and going to Cornell University. Um, and so I don't know why. I think it was probably a lot of nostalgia, because when I started writing this series was right after the world went into lockdown, and we're kind of all sitting at home wishing for better days and all of these things. And I have really fond memories of going to school and being in that area. So it made sense to root my experience. Again, I always kind of fall back on that experience, which is funny because Follow Me for Murder, there is all like not my experience. It's like what I wish I could have done in life, but
Hmm.
did not achieve. So Too Much to Candle and the world of Crucible is really a love letter to my time when I was in college. And the reason why Cornell made it as the school of choice, I was kind of between just like Ithaca College and Cornell. And it was really the fact that Cornell has the building that they visit is a real building, but it's
Okay.
also a building that was also named Glenmyre College as well. So there's kind of like there was like some fun connections. I was like, oh, like it's interesting like how they are both linked in these ways. So and Hazel's mom, had her career there, and really framing her being her established presence in the world of academia. The name Cornell brings a lot of weight with it. So I think that also using the character who kind of brings Hazel and Poppy, the reason why they're going to Cornell is because the missing person has ties to Cornell University. So it kind of heightens that kind of prestige that this individual liked to assert for himself.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. And one of the things that you talked about just now was about how you're able to drop in when you add real locations, real people, real things. Um, Sometimes, well, I don't want to say sometimes, if you and friends and people who know you as the author get some of those little details, that's great. If other people don't, it doesn't really matter
I don't know if
because
it's great.
it still works. Oh, I think it's a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. There have been details where it wasn't even intentional, and people and friends, family, they latch onto it and they're like, "How could you say that?" It's like, "Say what?" This is a work of fiction. Like, don't read too much into it. So that sometimes can get me in trouble. Uh,
Yeah.
but no, I again, it's revisiting memories and really the thing that I love about writing the world of Crucible is like this sense of community and peace and just goodwill towards humanity that the town
Mhm.
really embodies. And I think that like pulling personal memories and personal feelings really helps me develop and convey those situations for readers.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Well, I can't believe it. We are at the half hour mark.
Oh my gosh, time
Yeah.
flies.
So yeah, so thank y'all for hanging with us. I mean, this is a fascinating conversation because obviously, I hope you're all kind of cluing into that. I do truly love Hazel and Poppy, and um, to me, Hazel is the one that. If I was single, I would like to have Hazel as a best friend, and Poppy, I'd like to go drinking with her on Saturday night. That's the way I look at it. But
I
um,
they make like the perfect team for I even myself I was like, wow, like I really love their friendship.
yeah.
Because but it's not only friendship, it's family. And
Hmm.
it's one of my favorite relationships to write about. I have a lot of them that in my books, but theirs is really special.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I know Sarah has some special things planned, but before we get to that, I want to mention a couple of comments. Renee mentioned that she's loving the book,
Yay! I'm glad to
and
hear that,
so
Renee.
very cool. Sebastian, this is really cool. Sebastian is originally from Haiti.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and Sebastian, I tell you what, I've learned and watching TV and some books about the really interesting supernatural and paranormal things, associated with Haiti. So that would be a great conversation to have sometime. Lori says she loves the Whims. So there we go there. Renee just mentioned again that Crucible would be an awesome town to visit, especially in October. Um, let's see, Falssewen, Falasuin. I apologize if I'm not getting that correct. Loves Poppy. Just poppy exclamation point.
Yay.
And then Renee also commented about candle making is a real learning process. So,
It is.
Yeah, thanks folks for chiming in. We appreciate it. It's that makes a lot of fun, for us. So, again, we're at the half hour mark. Do you want to talk about I hear we may have some giveaways.
Oh, we do have some giveaways coming up. Yes. And so our giveaways this evening, it's going to be really special because we are not only giving away a signed copy of Too Much to Candle, but JC is also giving away a signed copy of Record Store Reckoning. So we're going to be having a grand prize for our winner, and our winner, instead of being decided by a magic word this evening, you guys are actually going to have to put your trivia skills to test. So hopefully you studied up. Don't worry if you didn't. We will make sure that somebody goes home with these wonderful books for enjoyment. I wanted to point out Renee talking about Crucible being fun to visit in October. I was actually just in Salem, Massachusetts, one weekend ago. I was there the first weekend of October, whatever that was. So, and let me tell you, I was like, this is kind of what I pictured Crucible feeling like during Halloween, but
Oh, cool.
wow, I was blown away by how much people love Halloween in Salem. I thought people had been exaggerating when they've talked about it for years. It was my first time going, and I lived in Massachusetts for 4 years and had never gone up until that point. But wow, I was like, I could definitely live here because it was a really, really cool vibe, and it definitely made me think of Crucible on like a much, much bigger scale. So if you do love Halloween, I would highly recommend visiting. But before we dive into our trivia challenge this evening, JC, I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion with you about book twos and writing book twos, because I know that you are in the process of working on book two in your Darcy Gone mysteries. And you've also, we've both written book twos before. I'm curious how you experience book two. Is it a kind of sense of relief when you're writing it? Is it more stressful? Like what's your feel when you dive into a book two first draft manuscript?
That's a loaded question.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I could spend the next half hour talking about that. The most difficult book to write is the second book in a series.
Oh.
And it's interesting because for me, writing book two and the Darcy Gone mysteries, which is currently with my editor, I was able to finish it. I think it was a challenge because, at least from my experience, writing the first book in a series, I find is an exercise in joy, because
Oh, do we lose you, Jim?
even
Oh, there you are. JC, we lost a little bit of what you were saying.
if you are planning ahead of, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. You were freezing up on your end too. So I was just kind of rambling on, but basically I think, at least based on my experience, when you're writing the first book of a series, it's just so much fun because you're learning about your characters, about the community that you're writing with, that you've set the story in. So everything is new. And when you're writing the second book, I think the challenge is that the guardrails are a little bit more in place more firmly. And there's also some certain expectations, because hopefully folks have read the first book and have enjoyed it. And so you want to hopefully meet those expectations that people are going to have. So I think there is a challenge to writing that second book, because also I think, people talk about in music, the sophomore slump. It kind of goes to that, there is a certain level that you have attained, hopefully, in that first book, and you want to reach it again. And the question is, can you?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas then I think once you get past that second book, that's when you begin to really hit your stride, because you've gotten familiar with the characters, you've gotten familiar with the community. And every book is unique. Every book is a challenge in and of itself. But I really do believe that the second book, it ain't easy.
I think that you said that perfectly, because at least for Too Much to Candle, the pressure of delivering and meeting expectations was the highest that I felt in my writing career so far. Um, and it was terrifying. But it was also one of the kind of the pros of a book two is that you do have this established base that you're able to build upon, but you are correct in the and I spent so much time like having to go back to book one and being like, how did I phrase this, or
Mm-hmm.
how did I describe this? And Hazel's home, and making sure that like how her home was set up in book one is the continuity is in book two as well. So there's a huge challenge of keeping within the parameters that you've set already. But you're right, like beginning to hit your stride with understanding your characters, understanding the world that you're in. So I'm really excited to write book three at this point.
Yeah. I am. My editor has had has had Darcy Gone book two for a month now, and haven't heard anything back yet. And I'm just told myself I'm not going to worry about it, because the thing is I've been very fortunate that most of the books that I've written, when I've turned them in, it's like, I'm proud of it. I think that was a good story. I think, it's, I had, for whatever reason, either I had a lot of time to work on it, or, the story came very easily. For me, the second Darcy book, it was a bit of a challenge. And I don't really know why. And when I turned it in, I remember thinking, well, I'm proud of the work that I've done. Is it a good book? Honestly, I don't know. Sarah, I'm waiting to hear feedback from you.
It's like you're when we talk about what we're reading, we'll cover that.
Okay, fair enough.
I feel the emotions that you're feeling, because I am in the same boat for Coco Klein book two.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I handed in, I was like, this is the best book I've written. And
Mm-hmm.
as you like take time away from it and you begin to think, it's like, oh my gosh, what if it's not the best book? And all of these questions just start spinning and spiraling, and who knows? So we'll see.
Yeah. And I think that's where also, I would like to believe that those of us who are, okay, I'm going to call us mid-list authors. We work hard at our craft. We try to do our best. And you get into writing. It is really hard to see, and I apologize for the cliche, but I think it's true. It's hard to see the forest for the trees, because you've spent so much time working on it. And when I turned Darcy book two in, it's like, okay, I don't know if it's any good or not, but I got it done. So I'll just wait for my editors. So,
yeah, and I think having those the other opinions, mine forthcoming, is always a boost, and kind of reasserts like, okay, like I'm on the right track. So, but I feel like there's a lot of emotion and a lot of turmoil that goes into writing a book. And I think when people think about cozy mysteries in the genre, it's like, oh, it's all, yes, it's about murder, but it's all happy, it's all good. And it's like, oh, but there's a lot of of our own personal angst that we're going through during these periods of time. So it's good to know that we're not alone.
Oh yeah. Well, and not to the, as far as I'm concerned, tonight is all about you, as it should be. But to not get too far afield, it makes me think of my Ali Cobb book number 3, Mysterious Mix-Up,
Mhm.
because at the end of that, I realized that, especially for a cozy mystery, that book took what I thought was a pretty dark turn toward the end, and we found Ali as our main character, amateur sleuth. She was in a really bad place, because I thought, well, this is someone who's experienced 3 murders,
Yeah.
and I realized, okay, to me as an author, that's when I felt that I owed the my readers some redemption.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized, okay, I need to kind of pull things back a little bit. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will say that if you haven't read it, that's where, fortunately, Allie has her bestie, Sloane,
Sloan.
who is the light in Allie's life. Really kind of, Sloane gives Allie some tough love and says, hey, you need to do some reflection here. And that's where, yeah, it's we need to, I think, we be careful a little bit, because I think we do owe our we have, I think we do have a bargain with all of you who are out there, who are reading our books, who are hanging out with us tonight. And it's important for us to deliver on that promise.
Agreed. And I think that, one of the most inspirational parts of your series that I took away as a reader is that, it's okay to deal with bad things, and it's okay to, to feel down and to realize, hey, these awful things have happened. A lot of the time we have cozy mystery heroines that are like discovering body after body after body, and it's like, take some time to reflect about like how that affects you. And I think that that
Mm-hmm.
really conveys the sense of realism that we were talking about earlier, that, keeping tied to reality, like you're going to need some time to decompress, after, finding your third body. And so I think that it's a really important topic to highlight, but also to bring that redemption, give the reader that sense of, okay, let's bring closure and show the path forward rather than dwelling on the past.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And kind of along that line, I also want to take a moment to also do a little shout out to one of the all stars, I think, of your Glenmyre Whim series, is your professional author who's in the series, who she's delightful. And I apologize, her name escapes me right now, but she makes me think of in your world, almost like a real life JB Fletcher. So unfortunately, I finished my drink, but a cheers to Angela Lansbury
yes.
and Jessica Fletcher and all of the wonderful work and everything she did for our world. So, talk to us a little bit about the author consultant.
Yes. So, it's Constance Crane.
Yes.
She was, oh gosh, her origin story of why she's even in this book series to begin with is tricky. Um, because she actually started as the main character in a manuscript that I was tinkering with. And I was like, you know what? I really love her as a character, but I don't know if she can carry this on her own. And so I thought, when I was creating this world of Crucible, what if Hazel and Poppy had a guide? Because, you know, not anybody can solve a mystery, but it helps to have somebody who has experience, and where they're kind of at odds with the detective Holden Whitfield in You Can't Handle the Truth. It's like they can't go to the detective for any assistance or advice. Nothing bad has ever really happened in Crucible before, so nobody really knows how to deal with death and murder and figuring something out to this level. So the fact that Constance is kind of conveniently visiting the town during this time of crisis, she's kind of sent there as a guide, to lead them through it and kind of give them, here's like how I would solve a crime, or how my characters solve a crime, because she's, coming at it from, she writes mysteries, and how she creates her murder and builds the story around it. And a lot of that was taken from like, oh, well, that's what I do when I'm creating a book. Um, and so having her in the story was also a way for like me to hang out with Hazel and Poppy, because it's like, oh, like
Okay.
this would be so cool if somebody came to me for advice about how to solve a mystery. Um,
Hmm.
but as readers will find out in book two, Constance really takes a liking to Crucible, and she begins to kind of set a life up for herself, and and maybe will take center stage more, even more in book three, which I actually
Aha.
just started writing a couple weeks ago, and it's off to a fun start.
Excellent. Super. Well, I hate to be a downer, but we only got 15 minutes
I know
left.
we gotta whip this trivia in
Yeah.
shape. All right, guys. So my thoughts for how this will work. Um, For those of you who are just joining us, if you would like to participate in our little trivia challenge that we are going to be having shortly, make sure that you are logged into your YouTube or Google account so that you can type your answers in the chat. Your prizes are going to be a signed copy of Too Much to Candle and Record Store Reckoning. So we've got a nice
There. That's
prize
the best
pack.
deal.
Beautiful. A nice prize pack for our winner this evening. We're not going to hold you to knowing the answers to these questions, although I did run them by George and he was like, Sarah, everybody's going to know the answers to these. So it's like, hopefully you do well. What we'll do is for every answer that you put in, you get one entry. If you get the answer correct, you get three entries. We'll draw our raffle winner at the end, and we will send you all on your way to Friday. So bear with me while we transition over to our Cold Cauldron Pub Trivia Night, which Miss Hazel herself is joining us this evening. I don't know what act it would take for Hazel to actually get up in front of a group of people and read off trivia questions. But because she is here tonight, she's obviously very excited to share the screen with us. So, again, what we will do, put your answer in the chat, and you can you can type in the actual answer, or you can just put A, B, C, or D, or true or false, or what have you. So, I hope you guys are all ready. Make sure that you're logged in. Our first trivia question of the evening, and JC, feel free to keep your answer to guess along with everybody, because I want to know if these are just like duh, everybody knows them, or if I'm just like, wow, I didn't know anything about Halloween. So here we go. Our first question is, what was the original name for candy corn? A, corn bites, B, corn fritters, C, chicken feed, or D, candy wax? I'll give
Ooh,
you 15 seconds.
I have no idea.
I'm going to hold
That's
off
a
my
good one.
commentary because I don't want to give anything away. It looks like our audience is like so good with at least knowing what candy corn was called. It was
Okay.
C, chicken feed. Thank goodness they changed the name, because I can only imagine how many people would be feeding candy corn to their chickens. I mean, people eat Tide Pods. Who knows? I'm like, but I was pretty proud of myself for coming up with these other answers. So,
I
but I
just
didn't,
have to,
I didn't really, uh, I didn't really trick anybody.
Mark, I love Mark's comment.
It
He
should
went
be.
with C. Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, what would it be like an actual name for candy corn? And there you go. All right. So everybody did very, very well with this first round of trivia. Our next question. In what country did Halloween originate?
Ooh.
A, Romania, B, Germany, C, Hungary, or D, Ireland? This one I had no clue, and I was like, wow. I will give 15 seconds on the clock.
I have thoughts about this. By the way, folks, if you have a chance, if you have access to the History Channel, there is a lovely, fun, entertaining special about the history of Halloween. And my family and I saw it about 5 or 6 years ago. It was really informative, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. If you so, look that up.
History Channel, Halloween
Yes.
origin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we had watched it, we would have hopefully been informed that Halloween originated in Ireland,
It did.
of all places. And I that was something I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. And it looks like we
Well,
have a quite the mix of folks in
mm-hmm.
our chat. So, um,
Yes.
yay for yay for tricking people.
Yeah. It was a pagan ritual,
Yes.
and yeah, I could
I
go
could
on and on,
I
but we were.
definitely like could see that. I was just like, wow, I didn't
Mhm.
think Ireland. All
Yeah.
right. Question 3. What is the first name of Dr. Frankenstein? A. Adam, B. Victor, C. George, or D. Gunther? I have a funny story about this one.
Now, is that Frankenstein or Frankenstein?
Oh, I'm gonna say Frankenstein, but
Okay.
probably that's incorrect.
Are
Yep,
you getting that reference, by the way?
I don't think I am. No.
Okay. Young Frankenstein. You
Oh,
need to
okay.
watch it. One of the greatest comedies, one of the greatest films of
That's
all
what
time.
Gene Wilder, right?
Yes,
I
yes. And so one of the jokes is that he's descended from the original doctor, and he refuses to be called Frankenstein. He says his name is pronounced Frankenstein. And so,
mm.
yes.
Well, the first name of Dr. Frankenstein is Victor. And
Yes.
when I was reading this question first to George, who served as my sounding board, I read the question, "What is the first name of Dr. Victor Frankenstein?" And I was like, "Well, that's not going to work out." So there we go. All right, question 4, folks. Who famously died on October 31st, 1926? A.
Ooh.
Charlie Chaplin, B. Harry Houdini, C. Babe Ruth, or D. Mark Twain? I will give 15 seconds on the clock.
That's an interesting one. I have no
This one
idea.
was really cool. Although
I mean, I
finding
know.
people around that time frame to build out our multiple choice was a challenge.
Hmm. I mean, I know one lived way beyond that. So, but the other
Yes.
three, that's. I have a guess, but
And it looks like many of our chat folks know their history in regards
mhm.
to famous magicians. Mr. Harry
Yeah.
Houdini died on Halloween, or is so reported, because apparently there was some things uh, that there was like a whole thing where he may or may not have died. So who knows?
Wow.
So this could be an
Okay.
inaccurate question. Um, yes, definitely, Mark. Uh, Babe Ruth like lived into like the 70s or something, or even like more than that. There were
Hmm.
definitely some I was stretching for my choice of names. But the reason why I chose Mark Twain is Mark Twain also has extreme ties to, not extreme, but ties to Elmira, where I went to college, and obviously I just
Oh,
like refer
cool.
everything back to my college days.
Hmm.
All right, question 5. We've got 3 more questions. What does the name Dracula mean in Latin?
Ooh.
Emphasis on Latin. A. Son of the devil. B. Son of the moon. C. Son of the night. Or D. Son of the dragon.
Wow.
15 seconds. And I have a fun fact for this one as well.
I do want to say Dracula, written by Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker was Irish. So we're getting a little,
Full circle.
you know, yeah.
Full circle. So the name Dracula in Latin does mean son of the dragon. However, in Romanian, in the language of Romania, the name Dracula means son of the devil. So For folks who guessed A, you were very, very close. But in Latin, Dracula is dragon.
Really?
Our sixth question. True or false? The word hallow means saint or holy person. And I am looking at this and not sure if if there should be a question mark there. I guess yes, true or false. It is a question.
Thanks to 12 years of Catholic education, I know this answer.
Excellent. And it seems like many of our audience members are also familiar with the answer.
Indeed.
It is true, which I feel like I did know, but when I was reading this question, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, because Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve,
Exactly.
which means it's the day before All Saints Day.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go.
All right. And our final question of the evening. This is you have to type it out, so this might be a little tricky. In which play by Shakespeare do three witches say double, double, toil, and trouble?
Oh.
And Lori gets bonus points for submitting her answer the first.
Mark gets an extra bonus point for not actually saying it.
Yes, Macbeth is our answer.
Is that the one that Denzel Washington just did? I want to say that one of the Coen brothers, and Denzel Washington was, I think he was Macbeth.
Oh.
It may have been Hamlet. I forget now. Anyway.
I am like so far out of the movie scene that it's gonna like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Wow, everybody, you guys did really well.
Yeah, good job.
Hopefully it was a little challenging. And while I tabulate who our winner is for our giveaway of a signed copy of Too Much to Candle and a signed copy of Record Store Reckoning, JC, would you like to tell folks what you are reading and watching?
Yeah. So what I'm reading is I've been on a big Neil Gaiman kick recently. So reading just finished Coraline, which even though it's a kid's book, was pretty scary. And then actually just a couple of weeks ago, I started in on a wonderful cozy by a good buddy of mine, and I believe yours too, Sarah, Zach Bissonette, A Killing in Costumes. His cozy debut, and it's a lot of fun. Tons and tons of Hollywood references. I'm just loving it. So that's what I'm reading. As far as I'm watching, it's October. So I'm doing what I tell in the family here. I'm doing Spooktober. So I have been, among other things, among other things, besides a lot of the classic things, like I finally got around to watching The Invisible Man, I have been binging Winona Earp, which is it's a fantasy horror series, 4 seasons, that originally was on the Sci-Fi Channel and is now on Netflix. And basically, it's a kind of a what-if setup. If a young woman turns out to be the heir of Wyatt Earp, and as part of her duties as the heir, she needs to battle all kinds of nefarious demons and creatures from the netherworld. So it's been perfect for October.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
How about you?
I am reading, I just finished the third book in the wonderful Lori Robbins On Point Mysteries, Murder in Third Position, which is coming November 22nd, I believe. Best mystery yet in the series. If you've been following this, you're going to absolutely love it. Could not recommend it enough. I am just getting ready to read a sneak peek of Darcy's second mystery as well, Jim. So that's on. I was like, I've been on a reading binge lately, and so yes, Murder in Third Position, wonderful. A ballerina sleuth set in New York City, so delicious and fun. Very much recommend it. I am watching Endeavor. um, which is the Inspector Morse series, but like as he's a like much younger detective. Um, Very enthralling. I think we're on season 7, no, season 6 at this point. Um, Set in Oxford, England, really twisty crimes, good political drama happening in the station. It's on Masterpiece Mystery. If you have the Prime channel, that's where I'm watching it. Very, very good. Highly recommend it. Um, so, with that said, let me announce our wonderful winner for our giveaway this evening. If our winner could send me an email at, let me put the email in our little chat window real quick, guys. Give me just a second. Um, if you could send me your address to uh, giveaways at thebookishhour.com. Our winner this evening is Renee Winter.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Renee. Thank you so much for being
Yay!
here. Um, and celebrating with us. Thank you, everyone. It means so much
Yes.
to both JC and I that you came out here for our season premiere. We're going to be back on October 27th, right before Halloween. However, we're going to be
Mhm.
talking about Christmas cozies because we're going to be joined by Christina Romariel. She's celebrating. She's a debut cozy mystery author. Her book, A Christmas Candy Killing, just came out this week. Both
Mhm.
JC and I have gotten to read an advanced copy of it. It's so fun, and I can't wait to talk to her about it. Again, that'll be October 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard right here on YouTube.
Yeah. And Mark informs us he just finished it yesterday.
Oh, good.
So awesome.
It's
Cool
it's
deal.
it's I South Dakota, I think, is it was someplace cold.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we I had that was her village. I can't wait to talk about it. So I hope that you guys will join us
Yes.
when we reconvene. Until then, Renee, congratulations on your prize giveaway. JC and I will get those signed copies to you as soon as we can. And again, everyone, thank you so much for being here. It is always a pleasure to talk all things books with you. And JC, anything else you want to send us off on?
I just want to say thank you all very much. Sarah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Also want to have a quick shout out to my lovely wife, Nancy. Today is her birthday.
Oh, happy
So,
birthday.
it's a wonderful day.
And happy belated birthday. Your
Thank you
birthday
very
was a
much.
couple days ago, too.
It
So
was.
lots to celebrate this week. So
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
it
Life
all
is good.
continues into the weekend.
Yes.
And I wish everyone a happy Friday.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye.
Yes.